My name is Avery. I'm 34 and I've been working as a product manager at a large IT company for several years now. The job pays really well, and 2 months ago, I finally achieved one of my biggest dreams. I bought my own house. It's a beautiful 4-bedroom place with a huge backyard. I fell in love with it the moment I walked through the front door. For the past 2 months, I've been having the time of my life picking out furniture and designing each room exactly how I wanted it. I have parents who are in their early 60s and a younger sister named Megan who's 31. Our family dynamic has always been complicated. My parents have consistently favored Megan since we were kids. They fully paid for her college tuition, rented her apartment while she was studying, and threw her an expensive wedding a few years ago. Meanwhile, I started working when I was 16 and saved every penny I earned to pay for my own education. I was good with computers, so I built up a little side business fixing them and helping people with tech problems. Even back then, I knew I'd have to pay for my own college because my parents wouldn't help with that kind of expense. That's why when college time came, I was shocked when my parents gave me $30,000 toward tuition. It covered part of the costs and my scholarship covered the rest. After graduating from a school in another state, I moved back home briefly, then got my current job and rented an apartment. I lived there for years, saving up every month for this house. Even now, my parents still give Megan money to help with her rent because she and her husband apparently can't manage on their own. But I tried not to think about all that family drama. I was too excited about showing off my new place. Last week, I invited my family over to see the house for the first time. My parents knew I'd bought it, but they'd never actually been inside. When they arrived after work, I was so proud to give them the tour. My parents, Megan and her husband Jake, walked through the front door, and I immediately noticed their expressions change. They looked around the living room, taking in the new furniture, the hardwood floors, the big windows. Megan wandered off to explore the bedrooms while the rest of us stayed downstairs. When she came back, she had this weird look on her face. "You don't need all these rooms," she said bluntly. "You live alone." "Well, I won't always live alone," I replied. "Someday I'll get married, maybe have kids, and I've always dreamed of having a big, spacious house." I could see the envy written all over her face. It was obvious she wasn't happy about my success. Mom walked over and patted Megan on the shoulder. "Don't worry, sweetie. Everything will work out fine." What was that supposed to mean? They left soon after, and I figured that was the end of it. I'd shown them my house, they'd seen how well I was doing, and now we could all move on. 2 weeks later, I decided to throw a proper housewarming party. I sent invitations to all my friends, colleagues, and relatives, including my parents and Megan. The day of the party arrived, and guests started showing up around 6 p.m. My co-workers came, old college friends, neighbors. It was turning into a really fun evening, but my parents and Megan were nowhere to be seen. Around 7 p.m., I got a text from Mom. "Dad and I aren't feeling well. I have high blood pressure acting up. Sorry, we can't make it." I was disappointed but not surprised. My parents had never been great at celebrating my achievements. The party was going really well when around 8 p.m., my front door opened and Megan walked in with Jake. But here's the weird part. They were carrying suitcases. "Hey guys," I said, confused. "What's with the luggage?" Megan smiled at me like nothing was unusual. "Mom said we could live with you. We're moving in. Where's the best bedroom? We'll need you to prepare it for us." I stared at her, speechless. "What are you talking about?" But Jake was already heading upstairs with their suitcases. I followed him, watching in horror as he walked straight into my master bedroom and started setting their bags down. "What do you think you're doing?" I asked. "Getting settled in," Megan said, appearing behind me. She started opening suitcases and pulling out clothes. "You'll need to move your stuff out of here. This will be our room now." I was in complete shock. My guests downstairs were probably wondering where I disappeared to, but I couldn't process what was happening. "Megan, you can't just move into my house without asking me first. Mom already cleared it with you." No, she absolutely did not. I went back downstairs trying to keep my composure in front of my guests. People kept asking if everything was okay, but I just smiled and said it was fine. I stepped outside and called my mother. The phone rang and rang, but she didn't pick up. 5 minutes later, I got a text message from her. "Just don't make a scene. Megan deserves this house as much as you do. She'll live with you until they save up money for their own place." I read the message 3 times, unable to believe what I was seeing. My mother thought my sister deserved my house, the house I'd worked for years to afford. I was furious, but I had a house full of guests. I couldn't blow up right now. I went back inside, plastered a smile on my face, and continued hosting my party. Megan and Jake had come back downstairs and were acting like nothing unusual had happened. They were chatting with my friends and relatives, telling everyone how excited they were to be living with me. The worst part was when people started complimenting the house and Megan began taking credit for my decorating choices. "Oh yes, I told Avery to buy those curtains," she said to my co-worker Sarah. "And I picked out this sofa," she told my neighbor Tom. I just stood there nodding and smiling while my sister claimed credit for all the work I'd put into making this place my dream home. But inside, I was already planning my next move. There was no way I was letting my sister and her husband move into my house. I'd worked too hard for this to let my family take it away from me. The party wrapped up around 11 p.m., and after the last guest left, I went upstairs to find Megan and Jake completely settled into my bedroom. Their clothes were in my closet, their toiletries were in my bathroom, and they were acting like they owned the place. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about how my family had always treated me like a second-class citizen, and now they were literally trying to take my home away from me. But I had a plan, and tomorrow, I was going to put it into action. The next morning, I woke up early and found Megan and Jake in my kitchen, drinking coffee like they owned the place. "We need keys to the house," Megan said, without even saying good morning. "We're both leaving for work soon, and we'll be back before you get home. We're not going to stand around waiting on your doorstep. I'll come home early to let you in," I replied. "I need to get extra keys made first." Megan rolled her eyes but didn't push it further. They finished their coffee and left for work. As soon as their car pulled out of the driveway, I called my boss. "Hey, I have a family emergency I need to deal with today. Can I take a personal day?" "Of course, Avery. Hope everything's okay." Everything was definitely not okay, but it was about to be. I immediately went upstairs to my master bedroom and started packing all of Megan and Jake's belongings back into their suitcases. Every piece of clothing, every toiletry, everything they'd unpacked the night before went right back where it came from. Then I called a delivery service. "I need you to pick up some suitcases and deliver them to an address across town." When the delivery driver arrived, I helped him load up all of Megan's stuff. Before he left, I taped a note to one of the suitcases. The note read, "Just don't make a scene. I'm not going to let parasites live in my house. Let them stay with you." I figured my parents would get the message loud and clear. About an hour later, my phone started ringing nonstop. My parents were calling over and over, but I didn't answer. Then the text messages started flooding in. "Mom, how could you be so cruel and selfish?" Dad, you've kicked your sister out with nowhere to go. Mom, this is unacceptable behavior from a daughter. I ignored all of them. Then Megan started calling. When I didn't answer her calls either, she switched to texting. Megan, what the hell is wrong with you? Where are our things? Megan, we broke our lease agreement because Mom said we could live with you. Now we have nowhere to go. Megan, you're destroying our lives over nothing. To that last message, I finally responded. You can stay with Mom and Dad until you find a new apartment. After sending that text, I blocked all their phone numbers. I was done with the drama and manipulation. For 2 weeks, my life was blissfully quiet. No unexpected house guests, no entitled family members taking over my space, no one claiming credit for my hard work. I could actually enjoy the house I'd worked so hard to buy. Then I got an email that made my blood run cold. It was from a lawyer I'd never heard of representing my parents. The email said my parents were planning to sue me. They wanted me to either let Megan move back into my house, or they would take me to court and demand I pay them back the $30,000 they'd spent on my college education. I stared at the email in disbelief. Were my parents seriously threatening to sue their own daughter for not letting my sister freeload in my house? I didn't know if they actually had any legal grounds to demand that money back. So, I decided to call my Aunt Patricia. She's my dad's sister and has always been aware of the family's financial situations. Aunt Patricia, I need to ask you something about the money my parents gave me for college. What about it, honey? Do you know where that money actually came from? There was a pause. You don't know, Avery. That money came from your grandmother's inheritance, not your parents'. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. What do you mean? When your grandmother died the year before you graduated high school, she left her savings to your parents. She specifically asked them to use half for your education and half for Megan's education. Are you serious? Completely serious? Your parents didn't spend their own money on your college. They spent your grandmother's inheritance money that was designated for you anyway. Do you have any proof of this? Actually, yes. Your father sent me a copy of your grandmother's will years ago. I can email it to you right now. 20 minutes later, I had a copy of my grandmother's will in my inbox. It clearly stated that her savings should be split equally between her 2 granddaughters' education funds. I immediately made an appointment with a lawyer to discuss my parents' threats. The lawyer reviewed all the documents and laughed when I explained the situation. Your parents have absolutely no grounds to sue you. He said, first of all, them money they gave you was actually your inheritance anyway. Second, even if it wasn't, educational gifts from parents to children aren't loans that can be recalled. And third, they certainly can't force you to house your sister, so I don't have to worry about this? Not at all. Let me draft a response letter explaining why their demands have no legal merit. A few days later, the lawyer sent an official response to my parents' attorney, basically telling them they had no case and to stop harassing me. I didn't hear anything more about lawsuits after that, but my family wasn't done causing problems for me. 2 months later, Aunt Patricia called with disturbing news. Avery, I need to tell you something your parents have been saying about you. What now? They're telling everyone in the family that you promised Megan she could live in your house, but then you kicked them out because you were stalking Jake and he rejected you. I nearly dropped the phone. They're saying what? They're claiming you had some kind of inappropriate obsession with your brother-in-law, and when he turned you down, you threw them out in revenge. I was speechless. My own parents were spreading lies about me that could destroy my reputation. Aunt Patricia, you know that's not true, right? Of course, I know it's not true, but they're telling this story to anyone who will listen. I was furious. It was one thing for my family to be entitled and manipulative, but spreading false rumors about me was crossing a line I couldn't ignore. That evening, I sent my mother a message on social media where other family members could see it. You need to publicly retract the lies you've been spreading about me. If you don't, I'll sue you for slander. I've already consulted with a lawyer and he says what you're doing is illegal and could get you in serious legal trouble. I meant every word of it. My threat to sue for slander must have gotten through to my mother because a few days later, Aunt Patricia called me with an update. Your mother called a family dinner. She told me she gathered everyone together and admitted she made up those stories about you and Jake. She said she'd overreacted and invented the whole thing to get revenge on you for kicking Megan out. I was relieved, but also disgusted. What did everyone else say? They were shocked. Nobody could believe she would spread such awful lies about her own daughter. Most of the family has stopped talking to your parents entirely. It was satisfying to know that my parents' lies had backfired on them, but I was also sad that it had come to this. I'd never wanted to be estranged from my family. I just wanted them to respect my boundaries and stop treating me like a doormat. The next few months were the most peaceful I'd had in years. No family drama, no entitled relatives trying to move into my house, no lies being spread about me. I could finally focus on my job and enjoy the home I'd worked so hard for. My work performance improved dramatically without all the family stress. I got a promotion to senior product manager and a significant raise. I used some of the extra money to landscape my backyard and install a hot tub. I also started dating someone new. His name was Marcus, and he was a software engineer at a different company. When I told him about the situation with my family, he was amazed. Your sister just showed up and tried to move into your house without asking, with suitcases and everything, and my parents supported it. That's insane. I can't imagine my family doing something like that. It opened my eyes to how dysfunctional my family really is. Marcus and I had been dating for about 6 months when I decided to host another party, this time for my birthday. I invited friends, co-workers, and a few relatives who had stayed supportive throughout the drama with my parents. Aunt Patricia came along with a couple of cousins who had reached out after hearing what really happened. We had a great time, and for the first time in my adult life, I felt like I had a chosen family of people who actually respected and valued me. During the party, my cousin Rachel pulled me aside. Avery, I need to tell you something about Megan and Jake. They're struggling financially. They had to rent a really cheap apartment after you kicked them out, and they're apparently saving money on everything, eating ramen noodles, not going out, the whole thing. That's not my problem. I know, and I'm not saying it is. I just thought you should know that your parents aren't helping them anymore either. Really? Your mom told my mom that they're done bailing Megan out. They said she needs to learn to stand on her own 2 feet. It was ironic that my parents had finally learned to set boundaries with Megan, but only after I'd been forced to set boundaries with all of them. A few weeks later, I ran into Jake at the grocery store. It was awkward, but he actually apologized. Avery, I want you to know that moving into your house wasn't my idea. Megan insisted, and your mom backed her up. It thought it was wrong from the beginning. Then why didn't you say something? Because Megan would have made my life hell. She was convinced you owed her that house since your parents had always favored you less. That's not how life works, Jake. I know that now. We're doing okay on our own, by the way. It's been hard, but we're managing. I was glad to hear they were figuring things out without trying to mooch off other people. Around the 1-year anniversary of buying my house, I decided to throw another housewarming party. This time it was just for me, celebrating how far I'd come and the life I'd built for myself. Marcus helped me plan it, and we invited about 30 people. My house was full of laughter, good food, and people who genuinely cared about me. As I looked around at my friends and chosen family, I realized how much happier I was without the constant drama and manipulation from my parents and sister. I'd lost some family relationships, but I'd gained peace of mind and self-respect. I'd also learned an important lesson about boundaries. For years, I'd let my family treat me poorly because I thought that's what family members were supposed to do for each other. But real family, whether biological or chosen, should lift you up, not tear you down. I still wondered sometimes if my parents would ever apologize, or if Megan would ever acknowledge how wrong she'd been. But I'd stopped waiting for that to happen. I built a good life without their approval, and I was proud of what I'd accomplished. My career was thriving, my relationship with Marcus was getting serious, and I was surrounded by people who respected and valued me. I'd created the life I wanted, and I wasn't going to let anyone take that away from me again. The best part was knowing that if anyone else tried to take advantage of me, I now had the strength and knowledge to stand up for myself. I'd learned that being kind didn't mean being a pushover, and that setting boundaries wasn't selfish. It was necessary. 2 years had passed since the whole situation with my family exploded, and my life had completely transformed. The house that had started as a point of conflict had become my sanctuary and a symbol of everything I'd accomplished on my own. Marcus and I had gotten engaged 6 months earlier. He proposed in the backyard, right next to the hot tub I'd installed with my promotion money. It was perfect, intimate, personal, and in the space I'd created for myself. We were planning a small wedding for the following spring. Just close friends and the family members who had actually supported me through everything. No drama, no entitled relatives, just people who genuinely cared about us. My career had continued to flourish. I'd been promoted again to Director of Product Development, and I was now managing a team of 12 people. The skills I'd learned from setting boundaries with my family had actually made me a better leader at work. I was direct, fair, and didn't let people take advantage of me. About once a month, Aunt Patricia would give me updates about my parents and Megan. The news was usually pretty predictable. Your parents are still angry about being cut off from most of the family, she told me during our last conversation. They keep asking relatives to talk to you about reconciling. What do you tell them? That you're thriving without their drama, and maybe they should consider apologizing instead of making demands. And Megan, she and Jake are still renting that small apartment. They seem to be doing okay financially now, but I heard through the grapevine that she's bitter about not getting to live in your house. It was almost funny how Megan was still upset about not getting something that was never hers to begin with. Some people never learned. Last month, I'd gotten an unexpected phone call from Jake. Avery, I know this is weird, but I wanted to reach out about something. What's going on, Jake? Megan and I are getting divorced. I was surprised, but not shocked. Their relationship had always seemed built more on convenience than genuine compatibility. I'm sorry to hear that. The thing is, during our separation talks, a lot came out about what happened with your house. Megan admitted she'd been planning to stay there permanently, not just until we saved money. What do you mean? She never intended to move out. She thought if you let her stay for a few months, she could establish residency and make it really hard for you to kick her out. Your mom was in on the whole plan. I felt sick hearing this. My own family had been plotting to essentially steal my house from me. Jake, why are you telling me this now? Because I feel terrible about going along with it. I should have stopped her, but I was too much of a coward. You deserved better from your family. After we hung up, I sat in my living room thinking about how differently things could have gone. If I hadn't taken that day off work to pack their stuff, If I hadn't stood my ground, they might have succeeded in taking over my home. A few weeks later, I got a letter in the mail that I almost threw away without reading. It was from my mother. The letter was 3 pages long, and it started with what sounded like an apology. She said she'd been wrong to support Megan's plan, wrong to spread lies about me, and wrong to threaten me with a lawsuit. But by the 2nd page, it became clear this wasn't really an apology. She was asking me to forgive and forget so we could be a family again. She mentioned that she and my father were getting older and wanted to have a relationship with me before it was too late. The 3rd page was the kicker. She casually mentioned that they'd been struggling financially since they stopped getting help from relatives who were angry about the lies they'd spread. She suggested that maybe I could help them out occasionally since I was doing so well. I read the letter twice, then put it in my paper shredder. Some people never changed. Even when trying to apologize, my mother couldn't resist trying to manipulate me and ask for money. That evening, Marcus found me in the backyard relaxing in the hot tub and looking at the stars. "Everything okay? You seem thoughtful tonight." My mother sent me a letter, sort of an apology, sort of a guilt trip, sort of a request for money. "Are you considering responding?" Not for a second. I've learned that some relationships are too toxic to salvage, even family ones. Do you ever regret cutting them off? I thought about it seriously before answering. No, my life is so much better without their constant drama and manipulation. I'm happier, more successful, and surrounded by people who actually care about me, like me, especially like you. The next month, we had our engagement party at the house. About 50 people came, including several relatives who had distanced themselves from my parents after learning the truth about what happened. My cousin Rachel made a toast that brought tears to my eyes. To Avery, who taught us all that family isn't just about blood relations. It's about the people who support your dreams, respect your boundaries, and celebrate your successes. You've built something beautiful here, and we're all proud to be part of your chosen family. Looking around at the faces of people who genuinely cared about me, I realized I'd gained far more than I'd lost. Yes, I'd had to cut ties with my parents and sister, but I'd also learned to value myself and surround myself with people who appreciated me. The house remained my favorite place in the world. Every room reflected my personality and choices. The backyard was perfect for entertaining friends who actually wanted to be there. And most importantly, it was mine, earned through my own hard work and protected by my own strength. I'd learned that setting boundaries wasn't mean or selfish. It was necessary for self-respect and mental health. I'd also learned that some people would always see kindness as weakness and independence as selfishness. Those people didn't deserve space in my life. As I planned my wedding and looked toward the future, I felt grateful for every difficult lesson I'd learned. My family's attempt to take advantage of me had ultimately made me stronger and more confident. I was building a life based on mutual respect, genuine love, and earned success. And nobody, family or otherwise, was ever going to take that away from me again.